I had sent the man I planned to marry $47,000. For 8 months, he called me almost every night before I went to sleep. He knew my daughter's name. He knew I hated cinnamon in my coffee. He knew I still kept the porch light on when I was home alone, because after my divorce, silence made the house feel too big. On my 46th birthday, he sent 12 white roses to my office. The card said, "One for every month I wish I'd known you sooner." I kept that card in the top drawer of my nightstand, and then, on a Tuesday morning in October, my daughter called me at work. Mom. Her voice sounded wrong, not sad, not angry, scared. I pushed my chair back from my desk. What happened? Are you alone? My stomach tightened. Emily, just tell me. There was a pause. Then she said, I found Daniel. For a second, I actually smiled. What do you mean you found him? His pictures. I didn't understand. Daniel had sent me hundreds of pictures. Daniel at a hotel in Oslo. Daniel standing beside a helicopter. Daniel in a navy jacket on the deck of a ship. Daniel drinking coffee with a snow-covered harbor behind him. I know what his pictures look like. No, Mom. Emily's voice cracked. I found the man in the pictures. Everything inside me went still. I remember looking at the clock on my computer. 9:17 a.m. There was an unfinished email open in front of me. Someone across the office was laughing. The printer beside my desk kept making that clicking sound it always made when it jammed. The whole world was continuing normally, except mine. What are you talking about? I sent you a link. My phone vibrated. Instagram, a public account. I tapped it, and there he was. Same gray-blue eyes, same smile, same scar cutting through his left eyebrow, same face I had looked at every night for 8 months. But his name wasn't Daniel Harper. It was Michael Reyes. He lived in Texas, not Norway. He owned a small construction company. He wasn't divorced, and in the most recent photo, Michael Reyes was standing beside a woman in a yellow dress. His arm was around her waist. 2 boys stood in front of them. The caption read, 15 years with my favorite person. Happy anniversary, babe. My fingers went numb. No. Mom? No, that's not him. Emily went quiet. I zoomed in on the picture, the scar. Daniel had told me he got that scar when he was 19. A motorcycle accident outside Phoenix. He said he almost lost his left eye. I had touched the screen the first time he showed it to me. I had told him scars made people interesting, and he had laughed. A soft, low laugh I could still hear in my head. Mom, listen to me. No, Daniel told me someone had stolen his identity before. He told you that? Yes. I stood up so quickly my chair hit the wall behind me. He said his company photos had been copied. He warned me there were fake profiles. I could hear Emily breathing on the other end of the line. Then she asked a question I did not want to hear. Did he warn you before or after I started asking questions about him? I didn't answer, because I knew. It had been after. 3 months earlier, Emily had asked why a man who supposedly worked on an offshore engineering project never seemed able to have a normal video call. That night, Daniel told me someone had once used his pictures online. At the time, I thought it proved how honest he was. Now the memory felt different, sharp, calculated. I sat down again. Emily, he calls me. I know. I know his voice. I know. He video called me. For 12 seconds. Stop. Mom. Stop. My throat was burning. You don't know him the way I do. Even as I said it, I heard how desperate I sounded. Emily didn't argue. That made it worse. Instead, she said quietly, How much money did you send him? My eyes dropped to the desk. I could have lied. For weeks, I had lied in smaller ways. I told Emily I was helping Daniel with some paperwork. I told my sister I had dipped into savings for home repairs. I told myself the money was temporary, that Daniel would pay every dollar back when the contract dispute was resolved, that we would laugh about it someday over dinner, that I wasn't being reckless. I was helping someone I loved. Mom, I swallowed. 47,000. There was silence, not even Emily's breathing. Then, Oh my God. Most of it is coming back. Mom. He showed me the documents. Mom. I saw the account statement. Mom! Her voice broke, and suddenly I was angry. Not at Daniel, at her. Because if Emily was wrong, she was destroying the best thing that had happened to me in years. But if she was right, I couldn't finish that thought. My phone vibrated again. A message. Daniel. Good morning, beautiful. You were quiet last night. Everything okay? I stared at the words. My daughter was still on the phone. Don't answer him, she said. I read the message again, the same way I had read hundreds before it, except now I noticed something I had never noticed. Daniel always seemed to know when I was most afraid of losing him. I whispered, I need to hear him say it. Say what? That he's real. Before Emily could stop me, I pressed call. Daniel answered on the fourth ring. Linda? His voice, warm, familiar, safe. For half a second, every fear disappeared. Then he laughed softly. Hey, what's wrong? You sound like you've seen a ghost. I closed my eyes and asked, Who is Michael Reyes? There was a pause, less than 2 seconds. But after 8 months of talking to someone every day, you learn the rhythm of their silence. And that silence was wrong. Then Daniel sighed. Oh, Linda. Not confused, not surprised, almost disappointed. I was hoping you'd never find him. My blood went cold. 8 months earlier, I had received a message from Daniel Harper completely by accident. Or at least, that was what I believed. My name is Linda Carter. I was 46 years old when I learned that a person can study your loneliness the way a thief studies a lock. And the first thing Daniel ever did to make me trust him was warn me never to trust men like him. The first message from Daniel wasn't romantic. That was part of what made it work. It came on a Sunday afternoon while I was sitting on my back porch with a glass of iced tea and a basket of laundry I had been avoiding for 2 hours. My phone buzzed. Daniel, sorry to bother you. Is this Melissa? I stared at the message. Wrong number. Me. No. Sorry. A minute later. Daniel, my mistake. I hope I didn't interrupt your day. That should have been the end of it. Normally, it would have been, but then another message came. Daniel, at least I accidentally texted someone polite. Most people would have told me to get lost. I smiled. It was harmless. Me. Depends how many times you text me. He sent a laughing emoji. Then nothing. No flirting. No, you sound beautiful. No strange compliments. No attempt to drag the conversation out. That night, around 8, my phone buzzed again. Daniel, I just realized I never properly apologized. Hope you had a good Sunday. I almost ignored it. Then I wrote back. Me. You too. That was how it started. Not with a declaration, not with a promise. Not with someone telling me I was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Just two strangers talking. At least that was what I thought. My divorce had been final for 3 years by then. My ex-husband, Mark, had left after 21 years of marriage. Not in some dramatic movie scene. No screaming. No suitcase thrown onto the lawn. He sat across from me at our kitchen table one Thursday evening and said, I think I've been unhappy for a long time. I remember asking, how long? He looked at me. Too long. Then I found out there was someone else. A woman from his office, 10 years younger. That part embarrassed me more than I liked admitting. Not because she was younger, because for months I'd been living beside a man who had already emotionally left our marriage. And I hadn't noticed. After that, trusting my own judgment became hard. I questioned everything. Was I too trusting? Too boring? Too needy? Too blind? My daughter Emily was 23 and living about 40 minutes away. She checked on me constantly after the divorce. Too constantly. Mom, you need a life. I have a life. You watched 3 seasons of a baking show last weekend. That is a life. That is an intervention. I laughed. I work all week. I'm allowed to be boring. You're not boring. You're hiding. That annoyed me because she was right. So when Daniel began texting me, I didn't tell anyone. There was nothing to tell. He said he was 51, divorced, no children, originally from Arizona. He worked as a marine engineer and spent months at a time overseas supervising repair and construction projects. At that moment, he said he was in Norway. I Googled the city he mentioned. Bergen. Beautiful harbor, colorful buildings, mountains everywhere. I sent him a picture. Me. This looks fake. Daniel. It feels fake until the rain starts. Me. Does it rain a lot? Daniel. Linda, I haven't seen dry socks since Tuesday. I laughed out loud. That was the first time he made me laugh. It happened more after that. He was easy to talk to, not flashy, not aggressive. He asked questions and remembered the answers. If I told him I had a meeting on Wednesday morning, he would text, "Good luck today. Don't let Robert interrupt you again." I'd mentioned Robert once. Once. Daniel remembered. If Emily was visiting. Tell your daughter I said hello. If I was tired. No need to call tonight. Get some sleep. I'm not going anywhere. That sentence mattered more than he could have known. Or maybe he knew exactly how much it mattered. I'm not going anywhere. Mark had gone somewhere. So had several friends after the divorce. Some married friends stopped inviting me to dinners because I was suddenly the odd one out. Others treated me like divorce might be contagious. Daniel didn't make me feel like damaged furniture someone had left on the curb. He made me feel chosen. But he never moved too quickly. That was the genius of it. 2 weeks passed before he asked whether I was single. Another week before he called me pretty. And when he did, I actually pushed back. You don't even know what I look like. You have a profile picture. That's from 2 years ago. Then you were pretty 2 years ago. I rolled my eyes. You're smooth. No, smooth men are dangerous. What does that make you? Old and tired. I laughed. Then Daniel said something that changed the way I saw him. Actually, Linda, can I tell you something? Sure. Be careful talking to people online. I paused. You're people online. Exactly. He laughed. Then his voice became serious. There are a lot of scammers out there, especially men who target divorced or widowed women. I remember feeling almost embarrassed. Are you warning me about yourself? I'm warning you about everybody. He told me his sister had once lost money to someone pretending to be a soldier. He said the scammer spent months building trust, made promises, created emergencies, asked for money. She felt stupid afterward, Daniel said. But she wasn't stupid. She was lonely. There's a difference. That sentence hit me. I sat quietly. Then he said, if anyone you meet online ever asks you for money, don't send it. I laughed. Good advice. I'm serious. I know. No gift cards, no wire transfers, no crypto, nothing. Okay, Dad. Mock me now. Thank me later. The conversation stayed with me. It made him feel safe. Not just safe, safer than most men I had actually met. A scammer wouldn't warn me about scammers. At least that was the conclusion I made. 3 weeks later, Emily came over for dinner. I was cooking pasta when my phone buzzed. I glanced at it and smiled. Emily saw. That was my first mistake. She leaned against the counter. Who is that? No one. That smile was not for no one. I turned back to the stove. It's just someone I've been talking to. Emily's eyebrows rose. Oh my God. Don't. You're dating? I am not dating. You're texting a man. That is not the same thing. She grabbed a wine glass. Name. Emily. Name. I sighed. Daniel. Where does Daniel live? He's working in Norway. She froze, then slowly put down the bottle. Mom. I knew the tone. What? Someone online who works overseas? Don't start. I'm not starting anything. You're giving me that look. What look? The look where you think I joined a cult. I do not think you joined a cult. Good. I think you're talking to a scammer. I stared at her. Then I laughed. Actually laughed. Daniel literally warned me about scammers. Emily blinked. What? He told me never to send money to anyone I meet online. She stared at me for a few seconds, then said, That's actually kind of clever. What is? If he's a scammer. I frowned. He's not. Okay? No. Seriously. I said okay. You don't believe me. Mom, I don't know him. Exactly. Neither do you. That irritated me. I picked up the wooden spoon and stirred the sauce harder than necessary. We've been talking every day for almost a month. Emily softened. I'm not trying to ruin it. You are. I'm trying to make sure you're careful. I am careful. I know. He's never asked me for anything. That's good. He doesn't even flirt that much. That's also good. He works. He has a life. Sometimes he takes hours to answer. Emily nodded. Okay. I waited for another objection. None came. Then she said, just promise me something. What? Don't send money? I gave her a look. I'm not an idiot. I didn't say you were. I know how these things work. She smiled slightly. Good. I pointed the spoon at her. And stop interrogating me. No promises. That night, I told Daniel what happened. He laughed. Smart daughter. You're not offended? Why would I be? She thinks you might be a scammer. Then she should. I sat up in bed. What? If I were her, I'd think the same thing. That answer surprised me. Daniel continued. She loves you. She's protecting you. I smiled. You're taking her side? I'm always on the side of people protecting you. There it was again. That feeling. Safety. A few days later, Daniel asked if I wanted to hear his voice. My heart jumped. I hated that it jumped. Sure. The phone rang seconds later. I stared at his name before answering. Hello? Linda? His voice was deeper than I expected. American, calm, a little rough around the edges. Hi. He laughed. You sound nervous. I'm not nervous. You're absolutely nervous. So do you. That's because you've spent a month deciding whether I'm a serial killer. I never said serial killer. Scammer. Serial killer. Similar customer service reviews. I laughed so hard I had to cover my mouth. We talked for almost 2 hours that night. About nothing. About everything. His childhood in Arizona. My father teaching me to drive. Foods we hated. Music. Bad marriages. The places we wanted to visit. Before we hung up, Daniel said, Linda? Yeah? I'm glad I texted the wrong number. I smiled into the darkness. So am I. After that, the calls became part of my life. I would finish dinner, wash the dishes, change into pajamas. Then the phone would ring. Daniel. Some nights we talked for 15 minutes, other nights for 2 hours. He never seemed impatient, never sexual, never asked for pictures I didn't want to send, never pressured me. And when I started getting attached, he did something I now understand was incredibly important. He pulled away. One weekend, he barely texted. I tried not to care. By Sunday evening, I was checking my phone every 10 minutes. Finally, I messaged him. Me. Everything okay? 3 hours later. Daniel. Sorry. Long weekend at work. Didn't mean to disappear. Me. You don't owe me an explanation. Daniel. Maybe not, but I don't like making you worry. I stared at those words. Then he called. His voice sounded tired. We talked briefly. Before hanging up, he said, I don't want you depending on me too much. I laughed nervously. What does that mean? It means you have a life there. I have a life here. I like what this is, but I don't want to make promises I can't keep. That should have made me step back. Instead, it convinced me he was genuine. A liar would make promises. Daniel was doing the opposite. So I began trusting him even more. 2 months after that first wrong number text, a bouquet arrived at my office. White roses, no expensive jewelry, no dramatic declaration, just flowers. The card said, for the woman who makes Norway feel less cold. My coworker Janet leaned over my desk. Who sent those? I tried not to smile. No one. She looked at the card. Your nobody has excellent taste. That night, I took a picture of the flowers and sent it to Daniel. Me. You didn't have to do this. He called immediately. I wanted to. How did you get my office address? There was a tiny pause. Then, you gave me the company website weeks ago. Oh. I looked up the address. At the time, I thought it was romantic. Later, I would realize how much information I had casually given him. My full name, where I worked, my daughter's name, the city she lived in, my birthday, my divorce, my schedule, my fears, the story of my marriage, the approximate value of my house, how long I had worked at my company, that I had retirement savings, that my mortgage was almost paid off. I didn't hand him a financial profile. I handed him pieces of my life. He assembled it himself. By the third month, I no longer thought of Daniel as someone I had met online. He was simply Daniel, my first message in the morning, my last call at night, the person who knew when I was pretending to be okay. Then one evening, while we were talking, he said, "I need to tell you something before someone else does." I sat up. "What happened?" He hesitated. "There are pictures of me online that aren't mine." "What do you mean?" "Someone stole them." I felt my stomach tighten. "Stole your pictures?" "Yes." "For what?" "Fake accounts, dating profiles, whatever people use them for." I remembered Emily's warnings. "Are you serious?" "Unfortunately." "Did someone scam people using your photos?" Daniel sighed. "I think so." "Oh my God. That's why I wanted to tell you." "Why now?" Another pause. Then he said, "Because I'm starting to care about you." I didn't speak. "And if you ever find something online," he continued, "I don't want you thinking I lied to you." My heart softened immediately. "You should report it." "I have." "Can't the websites take the accounts down?" "They do. New ones appear." "That's awful." "It is what it is." Then Daniel laughed lightly. "Maybe I'm just extremely handsome." "Don't ruin the moment." He laughed, and I laughed with him. That warning should have terrified me. Instead, it became another reason I trusted him. Because months later, when Emily finally found the real man whose photographs Daniel had stolen, Daniel already had an explanation waiting. He had planted it long before I needed it. I just didn't know that yet. And the next thing he would do was even smarter. He would prove to me that he had a face, not just photographs, a living, moving face. Even if I only saw it for 12 seconds. The first time I saw Daniel's face move, I almost cried. Not because the call was romantic, because for the first time I thought I had proof. It happened on a Thursday night. Emily had been asking questions again, not aggressively. That would have been easier. She had started doing something worse. She had become calm. "Mom, I'm not saying he's fake." We were sitting at my kitchen table, splitting Chinese takeout. "I'm just asking why every picture looks professionally taken." "They don't. Most of them do. He works around expensive equipment. Maybe people take pictures." Emily gave me a look. "What?" "Nothing. Say it." She put down her fork. "Have you ever seen him live?" "I talk to him every night." "Video." I looked away. "His internet is bad." "Always?" "He's on a work site." "For 3 months?" "He sent me videos." "That is not the same thing." I felt defensive immediately, not because she was wrong, because she was touching the one weak spot I had tried not to look at too closely. Daniel had sent short clips, walking outside in a heavy jacket, sitting in what looked like a hotel room. A view of a harbor? Once, a video from inside some kind of industrial facility. But he was rarely speaking directly to the camera, and when he did, the clips were short. Still, I never thought much about it. People my age didn't live on FaceTime. At least that was what I told myself. Emily leaned forward. "Ask him to video call you." "I'm not going to test him. I'm going to test or see." "Why not?" "Because relationships aren't police interrogations." "You're not in a relationship." That hurt more than I expected. I put my fork down. "What is that supposed to mean?" Emily immediately softened. "I didn't mean it like that." "It has sounded exactly like that." "Mom, I just mean you haven't met him yet." "I know that." "I'm worried." "You think I don't know?" She stared at me, and I hated what I saw in her face. Concern, not judgment. That made it harder to stay angry. "I just want you to be safe," she said. "I am safe." "Then ask him." I sighed. "Fine. Tonight." "Emily." "Tonight." I rolled my eyes. You're impossible. I got it from you. She smiled. I didn't. But later that night, when Daniel called, her question was still in my head. We talked for maybe 10 minutes before I finally said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why don't we ever video call?" Silence. Not long, but long enough. Then he laughed. "Is this your daughter again?" I smiled despite myself. "She has concerns." "She should." "That's not an answer." "I know." He sounded tired. "You want to see me?" "Yes." "Right now?" My heart jumped. "Sure." He sighed dramatically. I look terrible. "So do I." "You do not. You have no idea. I have pictures. Old pictures." He laughed, then said, "Okay, give me a minute." The call ended. I stared at my phone. Suddenly, I was nervous. I walked into the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, fixed my hair, then immediately got annoyed with myself for fixing my hair. I returned to the bedroom. My phone rang. Video call. Daniel. I answered. For 2 seconds, the screen was black. Then his face appeared. Dark room, blue light from somewhere off camera, a shadow across half his face. But it was him, the man from the pictures. His eyes moved, his mouth moved. He raised one hand. "Happy now?" I laughed. "Oh my God." The image froze, then jumped. Daniel's voice crackled. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." "Signal's bad." "I can see that." He smiled. At least I thought he smiled. The picture stuttered again. Then the screen went black. Call ended. 12 seconds, maybe 13. I called back. No answer. A moment later, a text. "Daniel. Told you. Internet is terrible here." I sat on the edge of my bed. My heart was racing. I had seen him. That was all I needed. Me. "You look less handsome when you move." 3 dots appeared. Daniel. "Cruel woman." I laughed, then sent a screenshot to Emily. Me. "Happy?" She called immediately. "Mom, this proves almost nothing." I stared at the screen. "You are unbelievable." "I'm serious. I literally saw him. For 12 seconds. So? So deepfake technology exists." I groaned. Emily. "I'm not saying that's what it was." "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying don't make a life decision based on 12 seconds." "What life decision?" She paused. That irritated me more. "Exactly. Mom, I'm just trying to protect me. I know." I took a breath. "I appreciate it. I do. But at some point, you have to trust that I'm an adult." "I do trust you." "No. You trust me until I make a choice you wouldn't make." "That's not fair." "Neither is treating me like I'm senile because I met someone online." "I never said that." "You don't have to." There was silence. I immediately regretted it. Emily had never called me stupid, not once. But shame has a way of hearing insults that were never spoken. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. I rubbed my forehead. "No, I'm sorry. I just don't want you to get hurt again." That sentence disarmed me. "I know." "Promise me you'll keep your eyes open." "I promise." After we hung up, Daniel called again. Audio only. "You okay?" I sighed. Emily and I argued. "About me?" "Yes." "I'm sorry." "It's not your fault." "Maybe I should back off." My chest tightened. "What?" "If this is causing problems between you and your daughter, maybe we should slow down." "No." The answer came too fast. Daniel was quiet. Then I said, I don't want that." "Linda." "What?" "Your daughter matters more than I do." I swallowed. "You matter too." He exhaled slowly. "I don't want to be the reason you fight with her." "You're not." "Maybe I am." "No." "Then let me earn her trust." That sentence stayed with me. "How?" "When I get back to the States, I'll take both of you to dinner." I smiled. "You'd survive that?" "I manage offshore engineers for a living." "So?" "So I'm prepared for hostile environments." I laughed. "Emily would eat you alive." "I'm charming." "You're annoying." Same skill set. That was the first time he talked seriously about meeting me. Not someday, not vaguely, when I get back. I asked, when is that? Probably late November. My heart lifted. That soon? If the project finishes on schedule. And then I go back to Arizona for a few weeks. Oh, why do you sound disappointed? I don't. You do. I hesitated, then said, I thought maybe. What? Nothing? Linda smiled into the phone. Maybe you could come here. A long pause. Then, I'd like that. It was the first time we made a real plan. Not a fantasy, a plan. He would fly into Charlotte, I would pick him up. He joked that I needed to hold a sign saying, Scammer Pickup Area. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Looking back, I hate that joke, because he was telling me the truth, just not in a way I could understand yet. Over the next few weeks, the relationship became more serious. Daniel started calling me beautiful instead of Linda. He sent morning messages. He checked whether I had eaten. Once, when I had a migraine, he stayed on the phone while I lay in the dark. You don't have to stay. I know. I'm not exactly entertaining. I'm not here for entertainment. I closed my eyes. What are you here for? A pause. Then, you. That was the night I knew I was in love. I didn't say it. Neither did he. But something changed. A week later, he sent another picture. He was wearing a navy jacket, snow behind him. He looked tired. Under it, he wrote, Long day. Wish I was there. I stared at it for a long time, then saved it. There were things I noticed, things I could have questioned. His work schedule was strange. He sometimes disappeared at exactly the same times each day. There were moments when his stories seemed slightly inconsistent. One week he said he was staying in a company apartment. Later, he called it a hotel. Once, he told me his mother had died when he was 27. Months later, he said 29. I teased him. Which is it? He laughed. 29. I always get the year wrong. I accepted that. Why wouldn't I? People misremember. People mix up dates. People have bad internet. People get busy. Every red flag had an ordinary explanation. And when ordinary explanations pile up, you don't see a pattern. You see life. Then, in late August, Daniel called me at 2:13 in the morning. That had never happened before. I woke to the vibration. His name on the screen? I answered immediately. Daniel? For a few seconds, all I heard was breathing. Daniel? I'm here. His voice sounded different, tight. What happened? Nothing. You called me at 2 in the morning. I know, I'm sorry. I sat up. Are you okay? He didn't answer. Daniel. Then I heard him say, I had a bad day. My stomach tightened. What happened? Equipment failure. Was anyone hurt? No. Are you sure? Yes. I waited. He sounded exhausted, maybe scared. I had never heard him like that. Talk to me. It's complicated. I have time. He gave a humorless laugh. I may have screwed something up. You? Not exactly. What does that mean? There's a piece of equipment we need to clear before work can continue. Customs issue, contract issue. It's a mess. I didn't understand half of what he was saying, and I think that was deliberate. Enough detail to sound real, not enough for me to verify. So what happens now? Probably nothing. I'll fix it. You don't sound like nothing. I'm tired. He went quiet, then said, I shouldn't have called. Why? Because you worry. Of course I worry. I don't want that. I smiled faintly. Too late. Silence again. Then Daniel said something strange. Promise me you won't try to fix things for me. I frowned. What? I know you. You do not. You're a fixer. I'm not. You absolutely are. I laughed softly. What am I supposedly going to fix from North Carolina? Nothing. That's the point. His voice became firmer. Whatever happens, I don't want you sending money. I froze. Money? Forget I said that. No. Why would I send money? You wouldn't. Daniel, I'm serious. I'm handling it. A warning bell went off somewhere inside me. Small, quiet, but real. Because for the first time, money had entered our relationship. He had brought it up, not me. I sat there in the darkness, then said, "Are you in financial trouble?" "No." "Then why are we talking about money?" "We're not. You just told me not to send you any." Daniel sighed. "Because I know how this looks." "How what looks?" "Man overseas. Complicated job problem. Woman he cares about." My heart beat harder. He said, "I told you from the beginning, Linda. Never send money to someone you met online." And just like that, the alarm inside me went quiet. Because he was warning me again. A scammer wouldn't do that, right? That was what I believed. So I told him, "Okay, I won't." "Promise?" "I promise." Good. We talked for another 10 minutes. Then Daniel said he needed sleep. Before hanging up, he whispered, "I love you." I stopped breathing. Neither of us had said it before. "What?" He went silent, then laughed nervously. "Bad timing." I smiled. "Very bad." "I can pretend I didn't say it." "No." "No? No." My eyes filled with tears. "I love you too." There was a long silence. Then, "I wish I was there." "So do I." We hung up. I lay awake until sunrise, not thinking about the equipment, not thinking about customs, not thinking about the word money. I was thinking about the first man in 3 years who had told me he loved me. 3 days later, Daniel called again. This time, his voice was shaking, and before the conversation ended, I would be the one who offered him money first. 3 days after Daniel told me he loved me, he disappeared for almost an entire day. No morning text, no lunch message, no call, nothing. At first, I told myself he was working. Then noon passed, then 3, then 5. By 7, I had checked my phone so many times that I started feeling ridiculous. I typed, "Me. Everything okay?" No answer. An hour later, "Me. Daniel?" Still nothing. At 9:42 p.m., my phone finally rang. I answered before the second ring. "Where have you been?" Silence. Then, "Linda?" His voice sounded wrecked, not tired, defeated. My anger disappeared instantly. "What happened?" "I'm sorry." "For what?" "I shouldn't have gone quiet." "Are you okay?" He exhaled. "I don't know." I sat down on the edge of my bed. "Talk to me." For the next few minutes, Daniel explained something about a shipment of specialized hydraulic components being held at a customs facility. He said there was a dispute between his company and a subcontractor. There were inspection fees, storage fees, a temporary bond, words I didn't fully understand. He never once said, "I need money." Instead, he said things like, "I'll figure it out. I always do. This isn't your problem." At one point, I asked, "How much are we talking about?" He went quiet. "Forget it." "Daniel?" "No." "Why?" "Because I know what you're going to do." "What am I going to do?" "Try to help." I almost laughed. "I'm in North Carolina." "Exactly. So what can I do?" "Nothing." There was frustration in his voice, or what sounded like frustration. I remember feeling helpless. This man had listened to me cry about my divorce. He had stayed on the phone when I had migraines. He remembered every stupid meeting at work. And now he was clearly struggling, and I couldn't do anything. That feeling mattered. A lot. Because people think scammers force you to give them money. Daniel didn't force me. He made me uncomfortable with doing nothing. I asked again, "How much?" "Linda." "How much?" 7,800. The number sounded oddly specific. Not 10,000, not 20, 7,800. That made it feel like a bill, a real invoice. "What happens if you don't pay it?" "The equipment stays held." "And then?" "Our deadline slips." "Can't your company pay?" "They can, eventually." "Eventually?" "It's complicated." There was that word again, complicated. He explained that the project account required authorization from 2 executives in the U.S., one of whom was traveling. He said if the payment didn't clear by Monday, the storage fees would increase. How long until they approve it? Probably Wednesday. I did the math. That's only a few days. I know. So why are you panicking? I'm not panicking. You called me sounding like someone died. He was quiet. Then he said, because if we miss the deadline, the company can hold me personally responsible for part of the delay. That sounded serious. Could you lose your job? I don't know. I felt my chest tighten. Daniel. I said I'll handle it. How? Another pause. I have access to a personal account back home, but I'm locked out because of an authentication issue. That made sense to me. I had gotten locked out of my own bank account before. Can't you call them? I have. And? They need me to appear in person for a reset because of a fraud alert. Oh. Again, every piece had an explanation. A boring explanation. That made it believable. Daniel sighed. I hate talking about this. Why? Because now I sound exactly like the men I warned you about. I smiled a little. Kind of. Great. You brought it up. I know. I'm teasing. I'm not. His voice became serious. Linda, I need you to listen to me. I am. Do not send me money. There it was. Again, the warning. I actually felt relieved. Okay. I mean it. I said okay. I'll work it out. We hung up 10 minutes later. I should have gone to sleep. Instead, I sat in bed thinking about him. $7,800. I had more than that in savings. It wasn't retirement money. It wasn't money I needed for rent. It was there, doing nothing. Meanwhile, Daniel could lose his job. And I loved him. That sentence changed everything. I loved him. By midnight, I had convinced myself that offering help wasn't the same as being asked. That distinction became very important to me. The next morning, I called him. He answered sounding distracted. Hey, did you fix it? Working on it. How? I have some calls out. I swallowed. What if I lent it to you? Silence. Complete silence. Then, no. The answer came so fast that I almost felt embarrassed. Okay. No, Linda. Absolutely not. I said okay. I told you not to do that. I know. I'm serious. I know. He sounded almost angry. And strangely, that made me trust him more. A scammer would jump at the money. Daniel was refusing it. I said, it was just an idea. It's a bad idea. Fine. Promise me you won't bring it up again. I laughed. You're very bossy for someone in trouble. I mean it. Okay. We hung up. 2 hours later, he sent me a picture of what looked like a document. A company invoice. There was a logo at the top, a reference number, an amount, $7,800, a customs broker name, a deadline. At the bottom, a signature. I didn't ask for the document. That was important. Daniel sent it himself. Underneath, he wrote, just so you know, I'm not being dramatic. It'll be fine. I zoomed in. It looked real, professional, boring, exactly what a legitimate invoice should look like. Later, I would learn how easy it is to make a professional-looking document. At the time, I saw proof. That evening, I called him again. Did they approve the payment? No. What now? I'll deal with it Monday. That's the deadline. I know. And if you miss it? Linda. What? Please stop worrying. How am I supposed to do that? He went quiet. I said, I can lend you the money. No. You can pay me back Wednesday. No. It's 3 days. No. Daniel. I said no. I was annoyed now. Why? Because the second I take money from you, this becomes something ugly. What does that mean? It means your daughter was right to worry. She doesn't know anything about this. And she shouldn't. I sat up. Why? Because she'll think I'm using you. Are you? The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Silence. Then Daniel said softly, no. I'm sorry. No, you're right to ask. I didn't mean it. You should mean it. His voice sounded hurt, not angry. Hurt. That was worse. I've spent months telling you to be careful, he said. If I take money from you now, what does that make me? It makes you someone borrowing money. It makes me exactly what I warned you about. I felt guilty. Now I was defending him from an accusation he had made against himself. Daniel, listen to me. I'm listening. You didn't ask me. That doesn't matter. It matters to me. Linda, you are going to pay me back. Yes. You have documents. Yes. You have a job. Yes. And I'm offering. He exhaled. I could hear him thinking, or pretending to. Finally, if I say yes, you promise this is a loan? I almost smiled. Of course. And the second my account is unlocked, I send it back? Yes. And you do not touch retirement money? I'm not. Emergency fund? No. Credit card? No. I laughed. You want my tax returns too? I'm serious. So am I. There was another long pause. Then he said, I hate this. I know. I really hate this. I know. All right. That was it. Not celebration, not relief, reluctance. Perfectly performed reluctance. He sent me bank instructions, not to his name. That made me hesitate. The account belonged to a company called North Atlantic Logistics Services. I called him immediately. Why am I sending it to a company? The customs broker. Not you? No. That actually made me feel better. I wasn't sending money to Daniel. I was paying an invoice. At least that was how I framed it. I opened my banking app, entered the routing number, account number, amount, $7,800. My finger hovered over the confirmation button. For maybe 5 seconds, something inside me resisted. Not a clear thought, just discomfort. I remembered Emily. Promise me you won't send money. I almost stopped. Then my phone buzzed. Daniel, please don't do this if you're uncomfortable. I'll figure something else out. I stared at the message. That was the final push. Because someone trying to steal my money would never tell me not to send it. Right? I pressed confirm. The screen changed. Transfer submitted. I took a screenshot and sent it to him. For nearly a minute, no reply. Then, Daniel. Linda, I don't know what to say. Me. Say you'll pay me back. Daniel. Wednesday. Then another message. Daniel. And thank you. I smiled. I actually felt good, helpful, trusted, important. That night, Daniel called me. His voice sounded lighter than it had in days. You saved me. I lent you money. You saved me. Stop being dramatic. I mean it. He was quiet for a second. Then, when I land in Charlotte, the first dinner is on me. I smiled. It better be. The expensive place. You owe me $7,800. We're eating somewhere very expensive. He laughed. And for the next 2 days, everything went back to normal. Morning messages, phone calls, pictures, plans. Then Wednesday came. The day Daniel was supposed to repay me. At 8:15 that morning, he texted, Good news. Account access is restored. Transfer coming today. At 11:30, bank is processing it. At 3 o'clock, they flagged the international transfer. Should clear tonight. At 6:45, I'm sorry. Tomorrow morning. I promise. I was disappointed, but not afraid. Not yet. The next morning, I checked my account before getting out of bed. Nothing. Then, at 10:22 a.m., a deposit appeared. $1,200. I stared at it. Daniel called a few minutes later. Did you get it? Yes. Only part went through. Why? Transfer limit? I'm fixing the rest. I looked at the $1,200. Real money. Back in my account. And whatever small doubt I had left disappeared. Because scammers take money. They don't send it back. That was what I thought. I didn't understand that the $1,200 wasn't repayment. It was an investment. He had just spent $1,200 to convince me that sending him the next $20,000 would be safe. The $1,200 changed everything. Until that moment, There had still been a small part of me watching from a distance. A cautious part, the part that remembered Emily's warnings, the part that knew $7,800 was a lot of money to send to someone I had never met. Then I saw that deposit, $1,200, real money, back in my account. And suddenly, the story in my head became simple. Daniel had borrowed money. Daniel was paying it back. That was what normal people did. The remaining $6,600, he told me, would arrive in two separate transfers because his bank had placed limits on international transactions. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He had already returned part of it. For the next 10 days, Daniel didn't ask for another dollar. That mattered too. He talked about Charlotte, restaurants, whether I would let him stay at my house or force him into a hotel. You are absolutely staying in a hotel. Wow, we haven't met. I thought we were in love. We are. Then why am I sleeping at a Marriott? Because love does not cancel common sense. He laughed. I like that about you. I liked that he liked it. It made me feel like the cautious one, the sensible one, the woman who knew exactly what she was doing. Then Daniel started talking about Thanksgiving. If I'm there by then, do I have to meet your whole family? Yes. That sounds terrifying. My sister will interrogate you. Emily already hates me. She doesn't hate you. She thinks I'm three criminals in a trench coat. I laughed. You remember that? She's very memorable. The imagined future became more detailed. That was another trap I didn't recognize. Daniel didn't just make me fall in love with him. He made me fall in love with a life that had not happened yet. I could see him standing in my kitchen, meeting Emily, fixing the loose cabinet door Mark had promised to repair for 6 years, sitting beside me at Christmas. I wasn't protecting a long-distance romance anymore. I was protecting my future. 2 weeks after the first transfer, Daniel called during my lunch break. Bad time? I have 20 minutes. Then I'll be quick. His voice was normal, almost too normal. How's work? Boring. Good. Boring is underrated. We talked for a few minutes. Then he said, I sent the rest. I smiled. All of it? 6-6. See, I knew you would. It may take a day or two. That's fine. Then, casually, also, I need you not to panic about something. I stopped smiling. That is never a good sentence. It's not serious. Daniel, there's an issue with one of the outgoing project payments. What kind of issue? A vendor account is under review. I leaned back in my chair. Why would I panic about that? You wouldn't. Then why tell me? Because it may delay the project. There was a pause. And if the project gets delayed? My return date moves. That got my attention. How long? I don't know. A week? Maybe. A month? I don't know. I hated how disappointed I felt. He heard it. Linda, I'm fine. You're not. I was just looking forward to seeing you. So was I. He sighed. I'm fixing it. I should have recognized the pattern. Problem. Distance. Fear of losing the future. Solution. Money. But Daniel still hadn't asked. Not yet. 2 days later, the $6,600 still had not arrived. Daniel sent screenshots, a transfer confirmation, a transaction number, a bank notice saying the payment was pending review. I had never seen his bank before. I didn't know what its documents looked like, but the screenshots looked official enough. Then the vendor problem got worse. Daniel said a replacement payment of $4,500 had to be made before work could resume. This time, he didn't tell me the amount until I asked. How much? Doesn't matter. How much? 4-5? 4,500? Yes. Can't the company cover it? They are covering it. When? Next week. And the work stops until then? Yes. I closed my eyes. That meant another delay. Maybe another month before Daniel came home. I knew exactly what he was doing now, even if I didn't know I knew. He had connected money to the thing I wanted most, seeing him. He never said, send me $4,500 or I won't come home. He didn't have to. My brain finished the sentence for him. Would the same account work? Well, Daniel went silent. Linda, I'm asking. No. Why? Because you already helped me, and you're paying me back. Trying to? I laughed. You make it sound like I'm financing a criminal organization. I'm serious. So am I. No. He refused for almost 15 minutes. Finally, I said, Daniel, if I help you, when do I get this back? Within a week. And this gets the project moving? Yes. And you're still coming home? If nothing else goes wrong. That last sentence should have worried me. Instead, I sent $4,500. This time, the transfer took less than 3 minutes. That scared me later. How quickly something that once felt impossible became routine. The first transfer had taken hours of thought. The second took minutes. That's how boundaries move. Not all at once, an inch at a time. A week later, the $6,600 still had not arrived. I asked Daniel about it. He sounded irritated, not with me, with the bank. They're holding everything. Why? Fraud review. Can you send from another account? I'm trying. Daniel, I need to know what's happening. I know. You told me Wednesday. I know. Then next week. I know. I heard the frustration in his voice and immediately softened. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize. I sound like I don't trust you. You should ask questions. Again, the perfect answer. He never punished my suspicion directly. He rewarded it. That made me feel safe enough to stop being suspicious. 3 days later, he sent me another document. This one showed an expected payment to his company for more than $380,000. Once this clears, he said, everything is done. I stared at the number, $380,000. Suddenly, my $12,000 looked tiny, temporary, almost insignificant. What's holding it up? Final inspection. When? Friday. And then? And then I can breathe. I smiled. And pay me. And pay you. And come home. And come home. Friday came. The inspection was delayed. Monday came. There was a compliance issue. Then a tax hold. Then a release certificate. Each problem had paperwork. Each had names. Reference numbers, logos, signatures. I did not realize that I was no longer evaluating whether the story made sense. I was evaluating whether each individual document looked real. There is a difference. One afternoon, Daniel said they needed $12,000 to satisfy a temporary tax requirement before the larger payment could be released. This time, I didn't immediately offer. I sat in my car outside work. Daniel, this is getting ridiculous. I know. No, I mean it. Every time one problem ends, another one starts. I know. I'm starting to feel stupid. His voice changed instantly. Never say that. I've sent you over $12,000. And I hate that. Then fix it. I'm trying. Why can't your company fix it? They are. Then why am I involved? Silence. For the first time, he didn't have an immediate answer. My stomach turned. Daniel? Then he said quietly, You shouldn't be. I closed my eyes. I knew it. No, you're right. What? I've let my problems become yours. His voice sounded broken. I promised myself I wouldn't do this. Do what? Become someone who takes from you. The anger drained out of me. Again. He whispered, I'll figure it out. Do not send anything else. And I believed that his shame was proof of innocence. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, Daniel did not text. At noon, nothing. At 5, still nothing. At 7:18 p.m., a message finally appeared. I think I lost the contract. I called immediately. He didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. Then he texted, I can't talk right now. I felt sick. The future I had imagined began collapsing. No Charlotte, no Thanksgiving, no Daniel in my kitchen. I told myself I was worried about him. But if I'm being truthful, I was also terrified of losing the life I thought was waiting for me. I opened my savings account. $29,412, more than I had ever told Daniel directly. But he knew enough. He knew I had savings. He knew my mortgage was almost paid. He knew I had a retirement account I refused to touch. And he knew I wanted him home. I typed, "What happens if the $12,000 gets paid?" 3 minutes. No answer. 5. 10. Then, Daniel, please don't. Me. Answer me. Daniel. Final certificate gets released. Contract continues. Me. And your company payment? Daniel. Supposedly within 48 hours. Me. Supposedly? Daniel. I don't trust anyone anymore. That sentence was almost funny in hindsight. I sent $12,000 the next morning. When I pressed confirm, my hands were shaking. Not because I thought I was being scammed, because I knew I was crossing a line. I didn't tell Emily. That was the moment everything changed. The moment I began hiding the truth from the people who loved me in order to protect the person who was stealing from me. And once you start hiding the money, the scammer no longer needs to isolate you. You isolate yourself. By the end of that month, I had sent Daniel $24,300. He still owed me almost all of it. But he kept calling, kept loving me, kept planning our future. And every time I questioned the money, he reminded me of the hundreds of conversations that had nothing to do with money at all. That was his strongest weapon. 8 months of memories, thousands of messages, hundreds of calls, all standing between me and the obvious truth. Then Daniel told me he finally had a date. November 18th. He was coming home. He sent me a flight itinerary. Bergen to Amsterdam. Amsterdam to Atlanta. Atlanta to Charlotte. I printed it. Actually printed it. Put it on my refrigerator. Emily saw it 3 days later. She looked at the paper, then looked at me. "He's really coming?" I smiled. "Yes." She smiled too. A cautious smile. "Okay." "Okay? I'll believe it when I see him." "You're impossible." "I told you." She pointed at the arrival time. "I'll come with you." "To the airport?" "Yes." I laughed. "Why?" "So if he turns out to be 52 scammers in a van, I can call the police." I laughed harder than I had in weeks, and for the first time in months, I felt completely certain everything would be fine. Then, 9 days before Daniel's flight, he called me with one final problem. A problem that would cost $18,000. And this time, the money would have to come from my retirement account. I said no. Immediately. "No. Linda, I'm not asking you." "Good, because the answer is no?" I know. I was pacing my bedroom. Daniel had just explained that a final release fee had appeared because his company payment exceeded some international threshold. I barely understood it. I didn't want to understand it. I had reached my limit. $18,000? I know. That's insane. I know. You told me everything was done. I thought it was. You always think it's done. Silence. Then, "You're right." I stopped pacing. That was another thing he did well. He rarely argued when I was angry. He let me win. "Your flight is in 9 days." I know. "Is that still happening?" Another silence. My stomach dropped. "Daniel." "I don't know." I sat down. "What do you mean you don't know? If this payment doesn't clear, they may not release my final paperwork." "You said you already had the ticket." "I do." "Then get on the plane." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "My passport is with the company administrator." I frowned. "What?" "For visa processing." "That makes no sense." "Linda, no, give me your passport and get on the plane." "I can't." For the first time, something inside me snapped into place. Not completely, but enough. "What company are you working for?" He paused. I knew the name he had told me. I wanted to hear him say it. "Nordsea Engineering." "Spell it." "What?" "Spell it." "Linda." "Spell it." He did. I wrote it down. Then I asked, "Who is your supervisor?" Another pause. "Why?" "Because I want to speak to him." His tone changed. Not dramatically. Just enough. "That's not appropriate." I've sent more than $24,000 because of this project. I think we passed appropriate. You sent money because you chose to. The words hit me. Silence. Daniel immediately corrected himself. That came out wrong, but I had heard it. You're right, Linda. I chose to. That's not what I meant. No, it is. I hung up. For almost 10 minutes, I sat there, staring at the wall. Then he called. I rejected it. Again, rejected, then messages. I'm sorry, please answer. I'm stressed and I took it out on you. You didn't deserve that. I cried. Not because of the money, because suddenly I felt exactly the way I had felt near the end of my marriage. Confused, embarrassed, trying to decide whether I was overreacting to something that felt wrong. Daniel called again. I answered. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I'm sorry. I wiped my face. Do you love me? Yes. Then why does this keep happening? I don't know. Are you lying to me? No. About anything? No. Promise. I promise. My eyes closed. I wanted that promise to be enough. Then he said, if you want me to walk away from the contract, I will. What? I'll lose the money. Maybe the job. I don't care. Daniel, I'm serious. What will you do? Come home. My heart jumped. You can? If I abandon the project, maybe. Then do it. Another pause. I may owe the company damages. How much? I don't know. More money. I said I don't know. We were trapped inside the same conversation again. Every road led to money. That night, Emily called. I almost told her everything. Almost. Instead, I said Daniel's project was delayed. How delayed? I'm not sure. Is he still flying? I think so. She was quiet. Mom, what? Has he asked you for money? My entire body went cold. No. The lie came instantly. Too instantly. Emily went quiet. Okay, that was all. I could hear doubt in that one word. I hated myself for lying to her. The next morning, I Googled North Sea Engineering. There were websites, several companies with similar names. One matched the logo Daniel had used. I clicked around. Everything looked legitimate. Later, I would realize he had borrowed the identity of a real company. Another layer. Another shield. I tried calling the number on the website. A receptionist answered. That terrified me in a strange way. Real company. Real receptionist. I panicked and hung up before asking anything. My brain used the existence of the company as proof that Daniel was real. It wasn't proof. It was only proof that the company existed. By then, I had become very good at answering the wrong question. 2 days later, Daniel sent me a photograph of what appeared to be his passport. His face, his name, Daniel Harper, date of birth, Arizona. It looked real. I felt ashamed for doubting him. Then he sent one sentence. I hate that we're here. I called him. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I've been suspicious. You should be. I understand. His voice cracked slightly. Maybe Emily is right. About what? Maybe this is too much. I felt panic rise. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe you deserve someone easier. No. Linda. No. He didn't threaten to leave. He made me imagine losing him. And I rushed toward him. I don't want easier. You deserve better. I want you. Long silence. Then, I want you too. That night, I opened my retirement account. I had never withdrawn from it before. There would be taxes, penalties, forms. I knew it was a terrible idea. I also knew that $18,000 was supposedly the only thing standing between Daniel and coming home. I started the withdrawal. The next morning, my bank called. A woman named Marissa from the fraud department. Miss Carter, we're reviewing a transfer request. Yes. Do you know the recipient personally? I hesitated. Yes. Have you met the recipient in person? That irritated me. No. Did this person ask you to send the money? No. Technically true. Is this related to an investment, emergency, romantic relationship, or person working overseas? My mouth went dry. She had just described Daniel. No, a lie. Marissa continued. I need to tell you that we see cases where customers are instructed to send funds to third-party business accounts for someone they met online. I know. We strongly recommend waiting until you can independently verify the recipient. I have verified him. How? I froze. Photos, calls, documents, a 12-second video. Suddenly, none of it sounded very strong. Miss Carter, I know who I'm sending it to. Okay, I need to document that we advised you of the risk. I felt embarrassed, almost insulted. I understand. She released the transfer. Years later, I would remember that conversation more clearly than almost anything else. Someone had tried to stop me, and I had helped the scammer get around her, but the transfer did not go through immediately. The bank placed a 24-hour hold. Daniel was frustrated. He tried to hide it. What's wrong? Nothing. You sound angry. I'm not angry at you. Then who? The bank. They're protecting me. I know. Daniel. I said I know. There it was again. Pressure. Tiny, but real. That night, I barely slept. At 6:40 the next morning, I opened Instagram. I don't know why. I almost never used it. Maybe some part of me was looking for an excuse not to send the money. Emily had mentioned reverse image search before. I didn't know how to do it. So instead, I looked at one of Daniel's photos. The navy jacket. Snow. A small logo on the chest. I zoomed in. The letters looked like M, R Construction. I searched the phrase. Nothing useful. Then, MR, Construction, Texas, dozens of results. I almost stopped. Then I saw a company page. A man standing beside a truck. My heart stopped. Same face, same scar, same smile. I clicked. Michael Reyes, Construction. Texas. I stared at the profile photo. I told myself it was one of the fake accounts Daniel had warned me about. Then I opened the personal Instagram linked in the bio. Hundreds of photos. Years of them. Michael at birthdays. Michael at job sites. Michael with 2 boys. Michael with the same woman over and over. Michael in the navy jacket Daniel had sent me. Only the original photo wasn't in Norway. It was taken outside a ski lodge in Colorado. I could barely breathe. My phone started ringing. Daniel. At the same moment, a text from the bank appeared. Your $18,000 transfer will be released at 9 a.m. unless canceled. I looked at the clock. 8:41, 19 minutes. Daniel called again. I didn't answer. I called Emily. She picked up immediately. Mom? My voice came out as a whisper. I think you were right. Emily was at my house in 14 minutes. I don't know how fast she drove. I don't want to know. By then, I had canceled the $18,000 transfer. The bank representative asked why. I could barely speak. I think I'm being scammed. Saying the word out loud made it real. Scammed. Not confused. Not unlucky. Not a complicated banking problem. Scammed. The representative froze the outgoing transfer. Then she asked whether I had sent previous payments. My stomach turned. Yes. How much? I added them in my head. 7, 8, 4, 5, 12. And other smaller payments I had not even mentioned. Fees, courier costs, 1 document legalization payment. About 47,000. She put me on hold. I sat at my kitchen table staring at nothing. $47,000. It sounded different when I said it to a stranger. Bigger, ugly, embarrassing. Emily came through the front door without knocking. Mom? I looked at her. Then I started crying. She didn't say, I told you so. She didn't ask how I could have been so stupid. She just wrapped her arms around me. That almost made it worse. I'm sorry. For what? I lied to you. About what? The money. She pulled back. How much? I couldn't look at her. 47. 100? I shook my head. Her face changed. 1,000? I nodded. Emily sat down. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "Oh, Mom, I know. We're going to figure it out. I know. You canceled the 18? Yes. Good. That would have been retirement money. Good. You stopped it. I almost sent it. But you didn't." I was crying harder now. How could I do this? Emily reached across the table. We don't do that right now. What? We don't help him by destroying you too. That sentence stayed with me. We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Every picture, every invoice, every bank account, every name. Emily reverse searched multiple photos. Most led back to Michael Reyes or members of his construction crew. The hotel photos came from travel websites. One harbor photo appeared on a tourism blog. The industrial facility video looked like it had been reposted from a company promotional clip. My relationship began breaking apart into source material, piece by piece. Then Emily found Michael's Facebook page, public enough to see years of posts, 15th wedding anniversary, family vacations, high school graduation, birthday messages. He had never lived in Arizona, never worked in Norway, never been a marine engineer. Emily messaged him. I grabbed her wrist. Don't. Why? What if... I couldn't finish. What if Daniel was still telling the truth? Even with everything in front of me, part of my brain was still looking for a door back into the story. That is what people don't understand about scams. Evidence doesn't instantly erase emotion. My head knew. My heart was negotiating. Emily sent the message. Hi, I'm sorry to bother you. Has anyone been using your photos online under the name Daniel Harper? We waited. Daniel called 6 times. I didn't answer. Then the messages started. Linda, please call me. The bank says the payment was canceled. That line changed the room. Emily stared at me. How does he know? I felt sick. The recipient had probably been notified, or someone in the network had. Then, what happened? Are you okay? Did someone talk to you? Finally, please do not listen to your daughter before you hear me. Emily laughed once. No humor in it. He knows. I looked at the message. He knew exactly who his threat was. Not the bank, not police. Emily. Because Emily could reach me. An hour later, Michael Reyes replied, Unfortunately, yes. People have been stealing my pictures for years. I'm sorry. Then another message. I have never used the name Daniel Harper. I do not work overseas. Please do not send this person money. I stared at those words until the screen blurred. Michael sent us a recent photo. He was holding a piece of paper with that day's date. His wife stood beside him. Real people. A real marriage. A real life Daniel had stolen to build a fake one with me. Emily touched my hand. I'm sorry, I whispered. I need to talk to him. Why? I need to hear him admit it. He won't. I need to. No, Mom. He'll manipulate you. I know. Then don't give him the chance. I looked at her. I spent 8 months talking to this man. I know. I need to know who I was talking to. Emily shook her head. You may never know. That terrified me more than losing the money. Who had heard me cry? Who knew about my father? Who listened when I talked about Mark? Was it one man? 5 people? A script? Were the jokes real? Did Daniel ever laugh because something was funny? Or because keeping me happy was his job? I called. Daniel answered immediately. Linda, no warmth now. Relief. Urgency. Thank God. I said nothing. Please listen to me. Who is Michael Reyes? Daniel exhaled. We talked about this. No. Linda, do not say someone stole your photos. They did. Michael says they're his. He's lying. I almost laughed. His wife says they're his. Linda, his sons are in pictures from 10 years ago. Silence. Daniel? Then his voice changed, calmer, almost cold. You contacted him? Yes. That was a mistake. My skin went cold. Why? You don't know who he is. I know who you aren't. Silence. Then, okay. One word. No panic. No denial. Just okay. I whispered, Are you Daniel Harper? Long silence. Then he said, "What answer would make you feel better?" My breath stopped. Emily was sitting beside me. She heard it. I put the call on speaker. "Tell me your name." "You know my name." "No, I know the name you gave me." He sighed. Then, unbelievably, "Linda, what we had was real." I stared at the phone. Emily's jaw tightened. "What?" "The circumstances got complicated. You stole someone's face." "I never said the pictures were recent." "You told me they were you." "I am the person you talked to." "Who are you?" "That shouldn't erase 8 months." I felt something inside me break. Not my heart, the illusion. "You took $47,000 from me." "I borrowed money." "Then send it back." "I will." "When?" "Once this project—" I laughed, a horrible, broken laugh. "There is no project." He went silent. "There is no Norway." "Nothing." "There is no flight." "Nothing." "There is no Daniel." Then he said, "You don't understand how complicated this is." That word, complicated, the word I had accepted for 8 months. I hated it. "No," I said. "I finally understand exactly how simple it is." I hung up. Then I blocked him. For 7 minutes. That's how long I lasted. Because 7 minutes later, I unblocked him. Not because I believed him, because I wanted my money back. And that gave him one final opening. The moment I unblocked Daniel, he called. He had been waiting. "Linda, do not talk about us." Silence. "Do not tell me you love me." Another silence. "I want my money." "I understand." "You have 24 hours." "For what?" "To return it." "That's impossible." "Then return what you have." "I don't personally have your money." That sentence was the closest thing to the truth he ever gave me. "Who does?" "I can't explain that." "Try." He sighed. "There are people involved." "How many?" "I can't tell you." "Are you even in Norway?" No answer. "Are you in the United States?" No answer. "Are you one person?" That was the question that made him laugh. Just once, softly. Then he stopped. My blood went cold. "Who are you?" "Linda." "Who are you?" "You don't want the answer." "Yes, I do." "No, you want Daniel." The cruelty of that sentence was almost surgical. Because he was right. I wanted Daniel. Even then. Not the person on the phone. The person I thought had existed. The man who remembered my coffee. The man who stayed on the phone during my migraines. The man who was supposed to land in Charlotte. I hated whoever was speaking because he had killed Daniel. And he had invented him. "I want my money." "I can help you get it back." "How?" "There's a way to reverse some of the transfers." I almost laughed. "Let me guess. I need to send money." "No." I froze. He continued. "You need to speak to the financial processor." "Who?" He gave me a name. A man named Robert Lane. Then a phone number. "Robert can help recover at least 30,000. Emily, sitting across from me, shook her head violently. I wrote the number down anyway. Why would he help me? "Because the funds are still in holding accounts." "Then return them." "It doesn't work like that." "Of course it doesn't." "Linda, I'm trying to fix this." "No, you're trying to keep me talking." Silence. Then, "Maybe." That answer surprised me. For 1 second, his voice sounded tired, human. I hated that too. "Why me?" I asked. He didn't respond. "Why did you choose me?" "Linda." "Was the wrong number fake?" Silence. "Of course it was." Nothing. "How many women were you talking to?" "Don't do this." "How many?" No answer. 10? Nothing. 50? He sighed. "You think knowing will help?" "Yes." "It won't." "Were any of the things you told me true?" Long pause. Then, "I did like talking to you." I closed my eyes. Emily mouthed, "Hang up." But I couldn't. "Was your mother dead?" "I'm not talking about this." "Were you ever married, Linda?" "Was any of it true?" His voice hardened. "You sent money because you wanted to." There it was again. The line from before. This time it didn't hurt. It clarified everything. Yes, I said. You chose to send it. Yes. I never forced you. No. So don't act like, and you spent 8 months manufacturing the reason I would choose it. Getting silence. I continued. You learned what I was afraid of. Nothing. You learned what happened in my marriage. Nothing. You learned how much money I had. His breathing changed. You learned what kind of man I wanted. Still silence. And then you became him. For the first time, he had nothing to say. So I hung up, permanently. I blocked the number, every account, every email. Then Emily took my phone and changed passwords I had reused. We contacted my bank, filed fraud reports, reported the receiving accounts, saved screenshots, exported conversations, documented every transaction. A police officer took a report, then another agency, then another online form. Each time I had to tell the story again. The wrong number. Norway. The roses. The video call. The first 7,800. 47,000 total. Every retelling made me feel smaller. The bank managed to stop the final $18,000 transfer. A few earlier transfers were investigated. Most of the money was already gone. Moved through other accounts, converted, transferred, withdrawn. Whatever Daniel's network was, it had been designed to move faster than the victims could change their minds. 3 days later, I received an email. New address. Subject. I'm sorry. I deleted it, then restored it from trash, then deleted it again. I never opened it. That was harder than it sounds. For weeks afterward, I wanted him to contact me. I hated myself for that. I wanted an apology, an explanation. I wanted him to say there had been something real underneath the scam. I wanted my humiliation to contain at least one authentic emotion. But that was another trap. Needing the scammer to give meaning to what they did. Eventually, I understood that I did not need his confession to know what happened. I had the evidence. I had survived the truth. About a month later, a man messaged me on Facebook. His profile said he was a digital asset recovery specialist. He wrote, "We believe we located funds associated with the people who defrauded you." My heart stopped. He knew the approximate amount. He knew the receiving bank. He knew enough details to sound credible. Then he said, "We can recover up to 80% of your losses." 6 weeks earlier, I would have answered immediately. Instead, I stared at the message. Then I noticed something. He had contacted me. I had never contacted him. He wanted a case activation fee, only $950. I laughed. Actually laughed. Then I blocked him. It was the first time since the scam that I felt like myself again. Daniel had taught me something expensive. The first scam had sold me love. The second one tried to sell me hope, and both required the same thing. For me to believe that the person on the other side of the screen cared more about solving my problem than taking my money. This time, I knew better. I did not get my $47,000 back. Some people expect survivor stories to end differently. The scammer is caught. The bank reverses everything. The money returns. Justice arrives in a neat envelope. That wasn't my ending. Most of the money was gone. I eventually recovered a small amount through one disputed transaction, but nowhere close to what I lost. For months, I could barely look at my savings account. Not because of the number, because every missing dollar felt like evidence of my stupidity. That was the word I used. Stupid. Emily hated it. One night, maybe 2 months after everything came apart, she found me sitting at the kitchen table. The printed flight itinerary was still on the refrigerator. I had forgotten to take it down. November 18th, the day Daniel was supposed to come home. Emily walked over, pulled it off, crumpled it, then sat beside me. "I should have listened to you." She shook her head. "You did eventually. After $47,000. Mom, I lied to you. Yes. I lied to the bank. Yes. I ignored everything. Yes." I looked at her. Very comforting. She smiled sadly. "I'm not going to lie to you just to make you feel better." "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying you made bad decisions while someone was deliberately manipulating you." I looked away. That doesn't make the decisions disappear. No. But it also doesn't make you stupid. I started crying, quietly. Emily took my hand. They had months to figure out what worked on you. That was the sentence that finally changed something. Months. I kept judging myself based on the moment I pressed send, but the scam had started long before the money. It started with the wrong number message, the jokes, the patience, remembering Robert from work, the flowers, the warning about scammers, the story about his sister, the short video call, the future plans, the first fake crisis, the $1,200 he returned. By the time he asked for nothing, I was already being trained to offer. That was the part I wish more people understood. A good scam does not always look like someone demanding money. Sometimes it looks like a relationship. Sometimes it looks like friendship. Sometimes the scammer spends weeks or months making sure that when the moment comes, you convince yourself. There were 5 warning signs I wish I had treated differently. The first was the simplest. He could never meet me normally. There was always distance. Travel, work, bad internet, a company restriction, a flight that was almost booked, a passport problem. One explanation might be reasonable. 10 explanations are a pattern. The second warning sign was that every emergency had a deadline. The equipment had to clear by Monday. The vendor payment had to go through before work stopped. The tax certificate had to be released. Urgency kept me from stepping outside the story long enough to verify it. The third was something Daniel did brilliantly. He made me offer the money. For a long time, I thought that meant he could not be a scammer. He didn't say, "Send me $7,800. He said, "I'm in trouble, don't help me. Please don't send money. I'll figure it out." And I filled in the blank. That wasn't proof of innocence. It was manipulation. The fourth warning sign was the payment route. The accounts were never simply in Daniel Harper's name. They belonged to businesses, processors, brokers, other people. Every time I asked, there was a reason. Today, that alone would make me stop. And the fifth warning sign came after the scam. People offering to recover my money. That is something I want anyone listening to remember. If you have already been scammed, you can become a target again precisely because you are desperate to undo what happened. Recovery scammers know that. They sell hope. They may claim they traced crypto, located a wallet, know an investigator, have access to frozen funds. Then comes the fee, the tax, the activation charge, the legal deposit. If someone contacts you unexpectedly promising to recover lost money, be extremely careful. Losing money once does not make you immune to being manipulated again. Sometimes it makes you more vulnerable. It took me almost a year to stop thinking about Daniel every day, longer to date again. The first man I went to dinner with after the scam was named Greg, a real person, a local accountant. He showed up 8 minutes late and immediately apologized because he had spilled coffee on his shirt. There was nothing mysterious about him. No overseas engineering contract, no dramatic past, no perfect morning messages. He talked too much about baseball. And when I asked if we could video call before our second date, he laughed and said, "Linda, we met in person." I laughed too. That laugh felt different, normal. I never married Greg. That isn't the point. The point is that I eventually stopped treating trust as something I had lost forever. I learned to make people earn it differently, slowly, with reality. Not promises, not documents sent through a phone, not photographs, not a voice saying exactly what I needed to hear. And I stopped being ashamed of telling my story. Because shame is useful to scammers. It keeps survivors quiet. It prevents families from learning. It makes the next victim believe they are the only person who could ever fall for something like this. I wasn't the first. I won't be the last. But maybe someone listening to this will recognize the pattern before they press send. Maybe they will call their daughter, their brother, their bank, a friend. Maybe they will wait 24 hours. Maybe one person will hear my $47,000 mistake and save themselves the first $7,800. If that happens, telling this story is worth it. Have you, or someone you know, ever met someone online who slowly gained your trust before asking for money? Maybe it was a romance scam, a wrong number text, an investment opportunity, or someone who always had one more emergency that only you could solve. If you have a scam experience that could help warn someone else, you can share your story with us at scamsurvivorstories_share at gmail.com. Your experience may be exactly the warning another person needs before they send that first dollar. And if this story helped you recognize a red flag, share it with someone you care about. Because sometimes the best defense against a scam isn't being smarter than the scammer. It's having someone outside the story who can see what you can't.